Entertaining, informative, and educational. Inspiring content that makes a difference.
This is the Maximus Troy Publications Broadcasting Network.
Join the Academy. This show is brought to you by the Breeders Academy, where we will help you to increase your knowledge of breeding, advance your skills as a breeder, and help you to improve the quality and performance of your fowl.
As a member, I'll provide you a roadmap that you will need to create a true family or strain. Starting with a cock from one breeder and a hen from another breeder, no problem. We can help you to turn your flock of hybrid crosses or mongrels into a pure family or strain, and show you how to continually improve that strain each generation. We'll start by showing you how to select your seed fowl and how to turn that seed fowl into a high-quality foundation strain. Our proven breeding programs and specialty courses are designed to take you step by step through the breeding process. And best of all, I'll be there to help you every step of the way.
We urge you to check it out. You have nothing to lose, and you can cancel at any time. You also have a 30-day money-back guarantee. Simply go to www.breedersacademy.com to sign up.
The Breeders Academy will not only change the way you think about breeding, but improve the way you breed your fowl.
We know what we're talking about. We're geniuses with a capital J. And I'll fight anyone who disagrees with me.
Okay, welcome to another episode of Bred to Perfection. I'm Kenny Troiano, founder of the Breeders Academy, and I'm here with my wife, Nancy. What's going on? What's up?
Did you guys all catch that? I'll fight anybody who thinks that I'm not a genius with a capital J. Just wondering who else caught that.
That's my sassy little daughter.
Yeah.
So
she is sassy too. I'm telling you, she's really sassy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we are flying solo tonight. Unfortunately, Frank can't make it here tonight with us, but he did just have a birthday yesterday or 2 days ago. So we're wishing him a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Frank.
No, it's yesterday.
Oh, was
So
it yesterday?
Yeah, I hear they're having a party for him.
Yeah, that's sweet.
He tried to make the show, but he couldn't get out of it. So sounds like
Was
he
a
would have rather.
surprise party.
Yeah. I think if he would have had his choice, he'd rather be here.
I think he would too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He told me I stopped counting when I turned 55. I stopped counting my birthdays. I says, "Well, I got you beat because I stopped at 29. I've been 29 for a long time."
A very, very long
I
time.
think I'm like 7 or 8 years older than Frank, actually. You know, but yeah, last minute change. I called Peter Brown. It was all last minute. I mean, it was like 2 hours ago. I go, "Hey, Peter, you ready? You want to come on the show?" And he goes, "Oh, Matt, I'm with my family having dinner." So I think he's going to come on next week. We have a couple topics we're going to cover, so he'll probably be on next week. I even called Brian Reeder. I got him at last minute too. He couldn't make it. He had a prior commitment. So he'll be doing a Q&A here pretty soon for you guys live. And him and I have a number of projects we're working on together. I don't want to say what they are at this point, but I have a lot of episodes I've already recorded. I'm working on those as well. But this topic that we were going to cover, which was common sense breeding, I think we're going to hold off and cover that another day because this is a really good outline. And it looks like a fun one to talk about. I really like to do it with Frank. So, I mean, I think we're just going to do a Q&A. Get your guys' questions in. If you have any questions and comments, and we can discuss them. Another thing we could do is just kind of pick away at this outline a little bit, maybe talk about some of the things that are on here. But we could answer your questions today. And the same thing when we do the members roundtable. It'll be mostly a Q&A today. So, and I want to remind my members to, I know we do the show out in the front, like the live show, this one here for everybody. But whether it's the live show or the members roundtable, the masters class video, always make sure that you check out the show notes and all the articles that go with it, because there's a lot of information that are on the same page as that video, something that the front end doesn't get that you guys do. And I think you'd benefit by checking that out too, because Frank and like today, Nancy looked over the outline and she goes, "It's a long outline." I go, "We don't have to do it all." And because I overshoot when it comes to getting together the information that I want to talk about, because for one thing, I want to make sure I have enough to talk about, and the information that I provide on the outline end up being part of the article that goes with the video. So it ends up being like every video we do is almost like a breeding program or a course or a program for the website. So not only do we do the video, but the information that goes with it. And Frank and I, or even me and Nancy, there's no way to cover everything that's on that outline. And so that's why I say the videos are good, but if you want even more information, check out the show notes and the articles that go with the video. So,
do you even know how many articles and courses are in the website at this
it's
point?
It's funny you asked that, because I was going to go check that out the other day, just because I was curious myself, because I was checking out another, it wasn't chickens or anything. I check out, I'm always studying other people, their podcasts, their shows, some of the information that they provide. And they were talking about how many different courses they have on their websites. I'm like, that'd be really interested to see how many I have between the articles, the daily articles that we've collected over the years, the members roundtable, masterclass videos, all the programs and courses. I probably should check that out. I think people would be amazed how many pages, and posts that we have on that website. Matter of fact, we've been getting a lot of new members, which I really appreciate. Matter of fact, we got 3 today. It's been ever since the first of the year.
Really?
The membership has grown quite a bit, pretty steadily. I mean, we lose a member now and then, mostly because they just can't afford it right now, but they almost always tell me that they're going to come back later, which is really cool. And just so you guys know, if you guys were members before and you want to get back in, just contact me, email me, and I'll make sure you get the price you had before. I'm not going to penalize you because you had to jump out. I'm not going to do that.
Right. And speaking of which, the doors are open. So guys, if you want to get inside the Breeders Academy and get involved with all that great information that we have there, right now's the time to get in.
Yeah. And like I said, for the members, join us on the back end after this. We're going to do about an hour here, and then we'll go on the back end and talk with our members. And I did a coaching call with a new member. She's been a member for, I thought she was a member before, and she said no, and I could have swore she was, but she just joined recently, right around the first of the year. And she was really enjoying not only the website and all the information that was there, but she was really enjoying the members roundtable. She was saying how refreshing it was, how well, not only that, obviously me and Nancy, but me and Frank and the three of us really get along, and all that. And then there's times when we'll dispute each other, but we don't take it personal. And not everybody's not after everybody or trying to put down people. It's a very positive atmosphere, and everybody's there to help each other. And the same thing with the members Facebook groups page. They're all, I don't see anybody putting anybody down. They're all trying to help each other. And I find that really cool too, because I don't really go into the Facebook group page for the Breeders' Academy. To me, that's their spot. That's their place. I rarely go in there. I'm flagged at what's said in there. And if I were to see something that I didn't like, I would take it off, but I haven't had to. And I'm sure my members will let me know. But that's kind of their spot. That's where they get along. That's where they get together. That's where they discuss things. I don't really go in there that much. I figure if they want to get a hold of me, they know how to get a hold of me. They can get a hold of me, here. They can get a hold of me on the website. My profile page, there's all kinds of places they can leave me a message. They can get a hold of me on my email address. So I know there's places they can get a hold of me, so I don't really spend time there. But it's a great place for them to get together and talk. So
I got to say, we had the roundtable last week, and it was a really good one. We had one of our members who was asking question after question after question, and they were all really good questions, and everybody else was chiming in. And it felt like it was a huge roundtable discussion between all of us that were in the back there. It was really good.
yeah, and she
Good learning
mentioned that
experience.
too on the coaching call, that although he seemed to be that for that day, and usually we get questions from a lot of the members, but for some reason, this particular member had a lot of questions, and they were all good questions.
They
And she
were.
was saying the same thing, that although he might have been the main one asking most of the questions he was asking were really good, and she was learning from that too. So yeah. But yeah, make sure to join the. Let's go here. Make sure to join the Breeders' Academy. As soon as you join, you'll have instant access to the Founders Program, Masters Class videos, Members Roundtable, programs, courses, daily articles. And there's a few pages there with our experts like Dr. Gallardo, Peter Brown, and although the information for Brian Reeder is on the website, I'll be creating a page just for him pretty soon too. So you'll have that. And then we do coaching calls with our members as well. Just go to www.breedersacademy.com where you can register. And hopefully I'll be anxious to work with you.
Or scan that QR code right there. Up there. There you go. The QR code. That'll get you there too.
Even if you're not going to join the Breeders' Academy, that's okay. Join our newsletter, which we call the Breeders' Bulletin. There you're going to get some free articles, tips on breeding, bonus material like ebooks and downloadable PDFs. Again, go to www.breedersacademy.com. Okay, so just let me know when you have questions, Nancy. We'll put them up and we'll answer them. But I guess we could discuss what we're going to talk about as far as the war on common sense breeding, because I was kind of excited about that. I can't remember what gave me the idea to do that particular topic. I think I was listening to something else. I don't even think it was a chicken show or a chicken podcast or anything. It was something else. But it made my mind start ticking, because there's a lot of things we do and that just doesn't follow common sense reality. And I remember it's one of the things Frank says all the time. It's just common sense. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So I started putting things together. I do a lot of our outlines while I'm waiting for Nancy shopping.
We were shopping yesterday.
Yeah. So a lot of times I don't want to go in there, mess around. I'm not a shopper really. I'm the kind of person that I know what I want. I go in there, get it, get the hell out. You know what I mean? So I don't do a lot of looking around.
Yeah, I'm
So
a
then I get on
browser.
my, what's that?
I'm a browser.
Yeah, I don't have time for that. So and then I sit in my car and I start putting down ideas in my phone on a dock and I start just expanding it. I'm like, wow, this looks like a pretty good episode, you know? So that's what we decided to do.
Well, I have to say, when you showed me the title of the episode, that eventually we'll do it in depth, because we need Frank for this one because it's
Yeah.
really a good one, and we're going to want his input. But when he says the war on common sense, I'm like, common sense? That's insulting to these people that think, well, what are you talking about? I'm a breeder. You're telling me that I don't have common sense. And then I thought about it and I'm like, it's not necessarily common sense. It's it's what you have learned through the years that, like myths and old wives' tales and misconceptions, things like that. And we have a whole list of what those misconceptions are. And they do it when you know this list, the war on common sense really makes sense. If you
Well,
understand what I mean.
there's a lot of things when I first got into raising game fowl and I got the Gamecock magazine and I started paying attention to what people were writing and reading and the way they were talking. Okay. And then you go to some of the shows and the way they were talking there. And Tony and I would just sit on his porch and discuss these things, how they say this or they say that, and w- why they don't see that that doesn't work, or why it's not real, or why it's based on old wives' tale. It always it always amazed us how those kind of things could just spring up, get attention, and just have a life of their own to the point where people started repeating it. It's like, I live in California. Frank lives in Kentucky, but we both knew the same things. We both heard the same things, you know. And so I
Social
start
media
right,
gets around.
huh?
Social media gets around.
But when we started, there was no social media, and we still were hearing those things.
Okay.
Okay, so I just started writing the kind of things that I heard back then that I still hear today, matter of fact. And I start writing them all down. The list, I was amazed how big the list was getting. And then Nancy and I were driving around. And I says, "Hey, what do you think?" And she started putting a few things down. I'm like, "Wow, that's good. I didn't think about that." And it just expanded from there. And then I just started covering all these other different topics they had that they were associated to. But I just find it amazing how people don't want to maybe further themselves, educate themselves, or maybe further their knowledge, or expand their knowledge, or maybe improve how they breed their birds, or how even how they care for them.
But I let me stop you right there, Kenny, because I somewhat disagree with you right there. I don't believe that they think that they don't want to improve their breeding practices. I think that they think their breeding practices are just fine. It's working for them. What they don't understand is if they knew a better breeding practice way, they could go so much further than they are. They could breed so much better. They could have so many, a wide range of fowl that are bigger, better, stronger, faster, everything, you know.
Okay, so you're basically saying they're ignorant. They just don't know better.
I don't want to say ignorant. That's a very offensive word.
Well,
It is, isn't it? It's offensive. It's just, it works for them. Okay.
they think it works for them.
Example, yeah, exactly. Okay, for an example, somebody who believes I just breed best of the best. That's a beautiful bird. That's a beautiful cock. That's a beautiful hen. Slap them together and voila, I got beautiful offspring. It works for them. But what they don't realize is what could be so much better if they knew the genetics of both birds, if they understood the dynamics of the conformation of body to help them along the way. That if they didn't, what's the word I want to think of? Just deal with crooked breastbone and just say, everything else on that bird is perfect. I'll just deal with the crooked breastbone. Who cares? You know what I mean? When
You would assume all that's true. And for some people it may be true. But I'm saying that what I've seen is like we teach the science. Okay.
Right.
So some of these other guys that aren't teaching the science, they're just teaching the old wives' tales.
Right.
They know the science is available. They know it exists. But then they say, "Oh, that science is for pretty birds. That science doesn't work for us. Science is for the domestic chickens, not us." That kind of thing. And it's you to me, that's just laziness. They don't want to take the time to learn it because they can't learn it or won't learn it. Then they can't teach it and they can't teach it. So, and because they don't want to learn it to teach it, then they want to degrade it or try to diminish it. Because if they don't, they're going to lose their following. Okay. So for those who aren't willing to take the next step and learn it, improve their knowledge, improve their skills, and hopefully improve their strains, then they're saying, okay, well, this sort of works for me. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a long time. But they'll even tell you that it only works for a short, a limited amount of time. Because although it seems like it works for a generation or two, why would they be adding new blood all the time, thinking they need to refresh them or fix them if they were getting the results they wanted?
Yeah, but Kenny, here's where it gets a little dangerous. They accept the outcome of what they got. They don't further their education on breeding. They accept what they have, and they sell them as good fowl.
Oh, good.
To
You're on my
other
side. I thought you were
to-
going to go against me.
Well, let's just get started here, mister. Let's see.
Okay.
No,
No, I agree. So the information.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that's what's so dangerous about this is you've got some people that are new who are enthusiasts and they really want to do a good job, and they're buying these birds under false pretenses.
Yeah.
So I mean, but here, what Sue says, I just totally agree with it. It's so scary. Is poultry world is full of bad information. Ask 5 people a question, and you're going to get 5 different answers. So, what do you believe?
Okay. Let me say something about that. Now, with the domestic chicken people, that's true, and you see it so much on social media. It's funny with the game fowl community; they're all saying basically the same thing, for the most part, depending on the topic, I guess. But they're all wrong. It's the same thing we've all been saying for years, which was wrong. So it's funny. I mean, it depends. Like some topics, there could be multiple answers when it comes to a particular question. But there are some that we said then, we still say today, and we're just passing on like it's the truth. But there's some of them I feel that a lot of people know it's not true, but yet they talk as if it were true and meant something. So I always say that it's almost like I know it's not true. They know it's not true. I know that they know it's not true. They know that I know it's not true, but we keep talking as it's true because there's no other way to communicate. So we just go with it.
Or it's this. They know it's not true and they know what's right, but they don't want you to know what's right. Because if you know what's right, then you are competition to them. Or if you know what's right, they can't sell you that bird that's substandard.
That's true too. But the ones that do know the truth and are doing it right, but they're speaking otherwise, they're saying something different, that's a smaller number than you would think.
I hope so.
But there are some that know the truth, still practicing wrong. Like they say they got a family, but they're always adding new blood. They know it's not true, but they don't want to either take the time to learn or go through what it takes to actually create a family and maintain it. All they want to do is sell birds. And I can think of quite a few of those too. So it's a game.
That's why we're here.
It's a game. But yeah, we're here and we're hopefully educating people, and hoping people open their eyes to what's really going on. And what I hope, wait.
I wouldn't say it like that. I would say, I hope they're listening and using their common sense to determine what is what's fake and what's fact.
Okay, but what I was going to say was, what I hope from this is they see what's going on and they take charge and they learn to create their own strains rather than relying on birds from other people that they're not going to be able to further with, that they're not going to be able to move forward with, because they're just crosses. They're just mongrels. They have so much blood in them. You know what I mean? You don't have to accept what's out there. You can actually create your own. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm trying to get people to accept and move forward with. So,
Well, let's break it down. Let's give one example of what we're talking about, because we're being a little vague here on the war on common sense. Common sense says when you have a bird with high station and you have a bird with low station and you want a medium station out of those two, you cannot breed the two together and get that medium station. But
no.
some do believe that you can. Oh, I'll
Yeah.
just slap this high one and this low one together and voila, I'm going to get something in the middle and I can go from there. Why can that not happen?
Because it's called compensation breeding. It doesn't really work like they think, because most of the traits that they're trying to do that with are what we call polygenic traits. They're form and function traits. And it's not a matter of putting two birds together and getting a blending, or, it's either, a lot of times they're putting two birds together that have very specific traits in themselves. So when they put those two birds together, they get offspring with both. So when they put a very high station bird with a low station bird, extremely low station bird, they actually get both instead of in the middle. Whereas when you're looking at polygenic traits, it doesn't work like that. So the best thing you could do is look at all your birds, decide what height you want or what you need, pick the two birds that are the closest to that, and then you breed those, and you just keep selecting in the direction that you need to go to get the trait that you're looking for. Okay. So we see this all the time with tail. The tail angles. Frank and I talk about this all the time, because people see, well, here, let me say this first, and we're going to talk about this later too, especially with Frank, is this is one of the common sense things that we talk about. Squirrel tail. Now, a lot of us know squirrel tail isn't good, but there's actually some people that think squirrel tail means strength. The stronger the squirrel tail, the stronger the bird looks to them. It looks, they favor that look.
What's the explanation for that?
I don't know exactly. They just think it looks strong. It looks powerful. It looks strong. It looks favorable. That's what they want. It does look stronger. A squirrel tail does look stronger than a bird hanging his tail on the ground. I admit that.
Unless you're an ASIL.
But to understand that we all know there's a standard out there. Okay. But nobody wants to pay attention to it. And the nice thing about a standard is if we're all trying to breed towards that standard, then we're all meeting the same purpose. We're all breeding birds that resemble each other, that they all represent their breed better. And that's kind of what we all should be doing. We shouldn't be looking for extremes in either direction, no matter what part of the bird we're looking at. So we have to look at the standard as a guideline, something to meet, something to breed towards. So I always tell people, get to know the standard, get to understand what the standard says, and then breed to those criterias, and then you'll be in a better position. But to breed extremes like a squirrel tail over the shoulder, so over the back so much that sometimes they touch the head, to me, that's not common sense. That's breeding to a fault. You know what I mean? So why wouldn't I, if I'm looking for a proper tail, why wouldn't I figure out what that tail angle should be and then breed to that?
Well, this is what I think about it. I think of, and I know that you think of this too, is the tail is the rudder. It helps balance the bird. And if the rudder is too high or too low, the bird is off balance. It may not show because the bird is making up for it, balancing himself, making up for it, because, that's just like It's like us. When you have weak arms and you haven't worked out, you make up for it by not lifting heavy things. So, I think that the
I'm
tail
not sure
needs
that
to
made
be
sense.
well, if you born with just weak arm structure, you just
Uh-huh.
don't have the arm muscles, then you know that you have that defect and you
I don't
compensate for it.
Yeah, I don't pick up heavy things.
You don't make a face, you just pick up a pen, that's it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what I'm saying the bird does. The bird compensates for that, for being off kilter. I got a text, it kinda threw me off. But it's so important for the tail to be proportionate properly to the rest of the body, and
Yeah.
that's why we have standard of perfections. That's why we have it, the American Standard Perfection, and we have the one for the domestic breeds is what we should follow. Just because you have a squirrel tail bird that performs perfectly in every way doesn't necessarily mean that's the bird that you should be breeding with. That should not be your brood fowl.
Now, I will say this, and I hope it's not contradicting everything I've been saying because,
Uh-oh.
well, I'm thinking American game all the way. That, and I do have a standard on my website, but Tony has one too, which is very good. So if you breed American game, this is a good one to get and start, especially when it comes to type and conformation. Your bird should match the right type and conformation for it to represent its breed properly. Now, color is another thing that, well, how do I say this? I have issues with a lot of it. And I did a coaching call with one of my members. I'm not sure if she wants me to say her name. And we had a long discussion about the standard and the people running it and how much of it you should follow and dealing with judges at shows and how some judges judge differently than others. Some follow a standard, some don't. Sometimes the standard has birds in its standard that are from other countries, but the standard in like the American Poultry Association doesn't match the standard of that bird's origins. So that's an issue. So there's a lot of confusion, and some of my biggest problems with the standard is that most of the birds that are in the standard can't be reproduced. Those colors can't be by breeding the cock and hen. You don't always get the same color, so they have to be double mated. Well, to me, that's a problem. And then I was talking to one of my friends who is a judge, and he says, "Well, if I go to your criteria, the only thing that's going to be in the standard is white and black." I go, I don't believe that's true. There's a lot of colors that actually reproduce themselves, especially things like red, gray, like the silver duckwing, the red duckwings. There's multiple breeds, but if they can't reproduce themselves by breeding the cock to the hen, that you have to do special things like having a cox line, a stag line, a hen line, a pullet line, and breeding certain colors with other colors to get the right color. To me, that doesn't work. Okay. Also, judges have to be on the same page so that's not
They're
confusing
not.
the exhibitors. I know we've seen it ourselves. Remember that time
No, they're
that
not.
one bird of that show was like one of the worst birds in the show, had good color, but the type and conformation was really off. He won the show because the judge didn't really understand the bird.
Yeah.
So I understand there can be some confusion when it comes to the standard. But for like American game, I think we should follow the standard, especially and I think when it comes to the type and conformation, I think the standard in general is good too, whether it's the APA or the um, uh, American game standard, like Tony's. The type and conformation should be the same no matter what. I think the biggest confusion is in the color and some of the details. Like this one breeder I was talking to recently, she has a real issue with the white earlobe, where her breed in its country of origin has white earlobes, but here they want red, and they think that she should change that to match their standard. And I told her, don't ever breed for the judge. Breed the way you think they should be according to the standard of their origins. Don't let the judge pick your birds for the brood pen. That's a big one for me.
Mm.
But yeah, I think as far as type and conformation and the defects that exist, I think we should all be on the same page. Color can, except for the standard colors like black, white, red, silver, things like that, and a handful of others. That should be, we should all be on the same page with that. The other ones I do have a problem with.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been to a domestic poultry show. We're gonna have to make some trips and check some of those out. I always enjoy it because you're seeing all kinds of different breeds in those shows, especially like the Ohio National.
Yeah.
But it does seem to be a little bit of a crapshoot or politics that you have to deal with in order to win. I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, some of you that have been to the show, let me know in the chat what you think about that. How did it go for you? Did you see some birds that won their division that probably shouldn't have won their division because they were winning their division with defects or whatever? I'd be interested to hear what your guys' experiences have been.
Well, like when I judge a show, I mean, it can be hard to do depending on the size of the show. I know this can be hard sometimes for some people. If I see a bird that has a disqualification, a lot of times I'll ask the breeder to come and talk to me because I want to let him know why I'm disqualifying this bird. The biggest reason is I want him to know not to breed it because he's going to perpetuate that particular trait and get himself in trouble. But I've had people say, well, my bird won at this other show first place, and in here it got disqualified. I don't get it. Well, sometimes either the judge doesn't understand the breed or and he disqualified it for the wrong reasons, or he was judged wrongly at the other show and that judge didn't know what he was talking about. You know what I mean? So again, improve your knowledge, increase your knowledge, improve your skills, understand the breed so that you're not only selecting them properly, but you're breeding them properly and perpetuating them properly, because you don't want to perpetuate a trait that's not right, that's either a defect or disqualification. And we see this all the time. A good example of this is I was judging a certain area every year, okay? And I picked the bird I felt was the right bird. And the guy came up to me and says, hey, this one's won multiple times at other shows. Why didn't it win? Or why didn't it even place? I think you disqualified it or whatever. And I says, well, because that one, the one that won best represents its breed, had the right type, conformation, color. Okay. And it was free of defects and it was healthy. Your bird has good conformation and type, but the color's off. I see white in the wings. I see white in the tail. It's a beautiful bird, but it's wrong for the color. And so we got a big issue about that. Well, he took it personal, but he came back a couple years later with the right bird. And I says, hey, nice birds. Where'd you get those? These were my birds. I listened to what you said. You kind of gave me an idea how to breed them and fix them. I worked on it. They're starting to come out right. And he won. I didn't know it was his bird till the end, but he won because he listened to me. But he took it personal at first.
Well, they often do because they put so much stock into that particular bird. This is the perfect bird. I'm so proud of it. And then you go and shoot him down like you do. And they're like, they hide in shame. But tell them about the one show that we did. And the bird was beautiful, but he had one defect. Do you remember what it was? I think it was in Riverside.
Could have been any show, Nancy.
I know you've done so many shows. Okay. In this particular show, this bird was pretty good. It had the right conformation of body and everything. And he picked up the bird. Okay. It's got a nice, I think it was red eye.
Oh yeah.
And then you looked at the other side of him, because when you pick up a bird, you look at one side and then you look at the other. So you don't just look at one side and say, okay, yeah, this is good. And then put it back down. You thoroughly check out the bird. And do you want to finish the story?
Well, you pretty much said it. I was judging the show and I remember kind of just looking things over from a distance. I don't usually go out where the birds are too much. I might look them over a little bit, but I don't like to spend too much time out there because people are always coming up to me, taking pictures, wanting to meet me and all that kind of stuff. And I just can't get anything done. So I try to stay away as long as I can, as much as I can. But I remember when I got started, I just kind of stood and I kind of looked over it was a big show too. And I was looking over everything from a distance. I'm like, kind of getting an idea of what I'm dealing with. And so I say, okay, I can see some problems over here with color. Or, the conformation's okay over here. We got some problems over here. Okay. And I looked way over there and it was under any other standard, but it was a black red bird. And that really caught my attention because I really do like those birds. And I was just staring at it and I was like, wow, if that bird is as good as I think it is, it's going to win the show. I can see it already. He had good type, good conformation. He just was a beautiful bird, good feather, the whole bit. And so I'm judging them and I'm doing my thing and I'm getting over the bird. I'm getting more excited as I'm getting to it too. And the guy, my handler, gets a bird, put it in my hand. I'm like, wow, this thing feels good. Good breast on it, good keel bone. Legs feel good. Everything's nice and strong. He's not fit. He's just a little fidgety, which is good, but he's not trying to fight me. Spread his wings, good reaction. I was like, okay, this is going to win the show. So then I did my normal thing where after I checked him out real quick, I start looking at the eyes and the face, and I says, "Wow, that's a nice ruby eye, good face, got a lot of crimson in the face." Turn him around, and I was like, "Wow, that's a beautiful black eye." I'm like, "Holy crap, damn!" I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
And I said, "Whose bird is this?" And so he goes, "Oh, that's mine." I go, "Let me tell you something. Type, conformation, color represents this breed. This thing's beautiful. It should have won the show." And he goes, "Oh shit," because he could see where I was going. I go,
But
see that nice ruby eye? He goes, "Yeah. Well, check out this." And I said, "That's a nice black eye." He goes, "Oh no." He never even knew it. He had no idea that bird had a issue with the eyes. I go, "I can't pick it."
Yeah, that's a defect. And
It's
that's an easy one.
disqualification. Yeah.
It's really an easy one to miss because you're either
No, it
looking at
shouldn't
it.
be. If you're paying attention to your bird, you shouldn't be missing that one.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. I guess.
So I was really bummed, because that one should have won. But we talk about all the time that I guess what we were talking about. Basically, the show is going to be on the war and common sense. Okay, and the reason I thought about that is because we have an uphill battle. Not that people don't want to learn, not that people don't want to increase their knowledge and hopefully improve their strains or even create their strains. But we have so many people that just don't want to work that hard. They want things to come easy. They think if they speak everybody's language, everybody's going to follow them. So we have people that work against us. And so again, we have the war on conformation. And I saw this early on where Tony and I started making a big deal about the right type and conformation of the bird, and all anybody cared about was the performance and all that kind of thing. They were like, the looks of the bird, the way the bird's built doesn't matter. It's the purpose of the bird that matters. And I'm like, no, the purpose of the bird doesn't mean much if the bird doesn't have the right structure to meet the purpose that it was bred for. And he's like, well, they're trying to show us proof why he didn't need the conformation, that he did well being the way he was. I'm like, well, I can guarantee you that bird may be able to perform to your expectations and all that, but the chances of his offspring down the road won't. And I've had people fight with me about that. And then they come back to me years later and go, "Oh man, you're right. I bred him and his offspring were terrible." I go, there you go. So there's a war on conformation. There's a war on inbreeding because a lot of people are scared of inbreeding. They just the idea of putting birds together that are that closely related just scares the heck out of them. I want to say there's a war on line breeding only because they're not using proper line breeding. They mix up line breeding with other methods, and the line breed that they need to do, they feel is inbreeding. So it ties them up in knots. So they work so hard to get away from anything that resembles inbreeding that they're only mixing up their birds. they're not actually making the progress. They're not fixating or locking in genes. They're not creating a family that's going to eventually reproduce itself. So they're not getting birds that are uniform or consistent. They're not getting any kind of predictability or repeatability. And they just feel like that's just the way it is. That's the way it's supposed to be. This is the best you're going to be able to do. Okay. Then there's a war on breeding programs. They either think that certain methods are the breeding programs, or they're using breeding programs that aren't really breeding programs. They're just kind of made up, or they're using breeding programs that are used for other animals. A 5/8, 3/8 is a really good example of that, where someone saw it. It looked like a breeding program. It looked like it was feasible for chickens, but it wasn't, because it was something that cattle breeders use to improve meat yields, which is basically what it basically does. It enhances hybrid vigor. And it takes many years to do just to get a small number of animals. So it's not really a breeding program. And even dog breeders use it because they're so worried about breeding closely related animals that they like doing what we call in and inbreeding, where they're breeding in aunts or uncles or cousins and things like that. And that's what that 5/8 method does. One of the things it does, so that it's a safe method for them, or they feel it is. So they're not really creating a strain. They're relying much on hybrid vigor and outcrossing rather than really creating true strains. Sometimes they get very close to creating a true strain and then they mess them up later. And to them, they feel like that's what they have to do because they're so worried about the COI, the coefficient of inbreeding, that they're worried about having to cull and deleterious genes showing up. And my opinion is, if you're not willing to breed them like you should, deal with the defects as they arise, be willing to cull, then you're not a breeder. You're just producing animals. They hate that. Okay. And then there's a war on purity of blood. Now, a lot of people feel that purity of blood is a myth, that it can't happen. And I'm here to say it is. I have the same bloodline that I had for over 30 years. Never added outside blood in that family ever. They're as pure as I got them, and then I improved on them, never adding outside blood. Looking at the variations that pop up, taking advantage of them, exaggerating them sometimes, culling them, cleaning them up as I go, using the founders program that I created to make the family. And today, to me, they're some of the best birds out there. You know, and I will say this, is there's a lot of confusion around purity of blood in that there's purity of traits. So are they pure in the traits that they express and carry? And there's purity of family, where the family has never had blood added to them ever. The idea is to get both. You want a family that is pure, doesn't have any outside influence, but it's also pure in traits. And that's the key.
Got a question on that.
Okay.
Pure in traits. Does that mean it always, every offspring after that, the traits are always the same? Is that
Yeah.
what you mean by purity of traits?
Yeah. So if I'm looking at the offspring produced from this family, let's say like pea comb. Well, if I worked hard enough, I've purified the pea comb in a way that never expresses the straight comb, that I could even test them against a straight comb, and I'm not going to get anything but pea comb. Purity of leg color, purity of feather color. Well, let's put it this way. If they're uniform, consistent, they're predictable and can repeat themselves, they're pure for that trait. If I'm not adding outside blood into them, they're pure for the strain.
So if you're a longtime breeder and your birds are coming uniform and consistent generation after generation, at that point, you believe that you have the purity of traits?
If I'm not seeing any contrasting characteristics being expressed, then
Then you're there.
I'm dealing with a family that's pure in trait.
Okay.
You know, if I'm getting a family that's uniform, okay, they all look the same. They're consistent in their type, conformation, color, and size, and whole bit. That's a pure family. If they're predictable, I don't have to worry about what's going to pop out. I've probably got a pure family. And if I breed them each year and they keep producing the same offspring, they're predictable. They can repeat themselves. I would say I have a pure family. So the idea is to get a family that's true in traits and that I've never had to add outside blood into them. And if you do it properly, you'll never have to add outside blood into them.
Now, that is your definition of purity of blood,
Yeah.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Because some people will argue with that fact that like there's no pure chicken. There's always something mixed in with that chicken. So
I
that's
hear all the time, and that they say that they've had their bloodline for 30 years. I don't think it's true. I don't think you can keep a family true that long without refreshing them with outside blood. We're doing it. Frank has done it. I'm doing it. I know a number of breeders have done it. You know,
Speaking of that, which I wanted to mention when you were talking about breeding programs, methods do not constitute a breeding program.
no, the methods are
Part
part of a breeding
of a
program.
breeding
A proper breeding program has multiple methods within that program that you use at a particular time for a particular purpose to achieve a particular result. Knowing when to use them for how long is the key.
Okay, so Jose here has a really good question.
Okay,
He
cool.
comes up with the best questions here. How does variation work on purity of traits if purity reproduces themselves?
Okay, so although we want to knock down as much of the deleterious or the variations don't work in our favor, we want to knock those down and get rid of them as much as we can. We need some variation. And this is my experience across the board with myself and everybody I've worked with and my mentors, that no matter how much you try to knock the variation out, you're still going to see variation. I know some breeders that do brother and sister mating every year and have for years, but they understand how that works. I don't recommend that to most people, but I know how they do it, and they're doing it properly. It's a tricky process, and you got to be willing to call hard, and there's a certain way to do it. But anyways, they still get variation. Now, what we're talking about is small variation. We're not talking about huge variation. We're not talking about contrasting characteristics, but it's really tough to knock the variation out of them completely.
Completely out.
Yeah. I mean, the only way I think you would do it is for the average person to inbreed all the time, every year, every generation, without doing it properly. Like I said, inbreeding is a great tool, but if you do it wrong, it's going to be disastrous. So that would be the way to do it. So I do believe that you're going to have some what was the rest of that question, Nancy? We should leave it up until I'm completely done.
Oh, I thought you were done.
Okay. So
So it just goes along with the first one.
yeah. So I believe that you want to get rid of the variations that don't work in your favor, the ones that are going to hurt you, and perpetuate and breed towards the ones that do. But you do need some variation to improve them. They're like we talk about all the time. Variation. How does it go? Oh shoot, my mind went blank. I can't think right now. But there's a phrase. Oh man, it left me. Okay, we'll have to talk about it later.
You'll have to write it down for when we
I don't know why it's not in my head. I say it all the time, No, I can't think of it right now. For some reason, my mind's
That's like me. How do you spell it again? So
yeah. I mean, if you were talking and Frank was talking, then I could think about it for a minute. It would probably.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so
okay. So speaking of which, we have Brian Reeder's little banner up. So here is a good question that goes along with that. Let me pull that one up. Is the white in some dark fowl like a recessive white?
no. If you have an all white bird, they're either recessive or they're dominant. Okay, when you see white in, let's say, a dark bird or a red bird, that's called progressive white, and that's a really bad defect. That's a deleterious gene. It's funny because that white will do a number. It'll get worse as the bird gets older, and it'll pass that to the next generation. But it doesn't just affect the plumage. It also affects the inside of the bird, the organs of the bird, how that bird grows and develops and how it ages, and then some of the traits that it passes to offspring. So it's actually a really bad thing. So there's a lot of people actually trying to improve and increase the white in the tail, so they get those
Streamers.
those streamers, those white sickle feathers. Something it thinks it looks good in the wings. That little white gives it character. I will admit, sometimes that's kind of neat looking, but it's a deleterious gene that it will actually ruin your strain. So, and it can be fixed. It's hard, but it can be fixed. It's like that one guy I was telling you about. He was getting white in his wings and his tail. You could see the white in his hands. He just started breeding the birds that didn't show the white, or start breeding birds that showed less of the white. And then in time, he was able to get them pure to color, and then the white wasn't there. I can see where some people think it's attractive, but overall, it's a bad gene.
Yeah, it's attractive.
But it's like these not spangles, splashes. That's a progressive white. Yeah,
Okay,
that'll
so
ruin a family fast.
yeah. Robbie just wanted to let you know that he tagged you in a post last night. So when you get a chance, look at that.
Okay, it might not be till next week, Robbie. Okay.
Okay.
Is it? Where do you post it? On the group page?
He doesn't say. So Robbie, let us
Okay.
know
If
where
he
you
tagged
posted
me,
it so that
okay.
Kenny can go find it.
Yeah. If he wants to send it to me an email, then I'll try to go over it and I'll look at it.
Group page.
Okay.
In the group page.
So the other thing was, you got another question? Go ahead.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes left of this show. So
Okay.
I think we should take these couple questions and then
Okay.
head on to the round table. We're doing a round table tonight?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jose, save that question for the round table because it's a goodie. All
Okay.
right. Let's see. I'm trying to pull this one up. What's the best way to select a hen between full sisters when inbreeding game fowl? Is that something that you can answer
Well,
here?
I'll just say this. Well, understand your strain, understand your breed, what best represents a breed, understand what the proper type and conformation is of your birds, okay? Understand what represents proper health, what a defect is, what to cull, what to select for, all that. Understand the proper color, and then you compare the two, because no matter whether they're full sisters or full siblings, they're not identical. Then they won't be. So they're all going to have their own gene pool, genome. So they are going to be different no matter how close they are. So there will be differences. So just understand your breed so that you can breed them. If you look at the selection articles on the website or the confirmation article, that would help out, helping you decide which one's better too. Or if you're a member, send me pictures and I'll look them over and help you with it.
Yeah. Set up a coaching call.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, okay.
One more question or
no more questions? Jose is already running to the round table.
It's so funny because they get in there and they race in there and it's like whoever gets there first or wins. Whoever gets there first wins. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's great. Love it. Love seeing it. So that will complete our show for tonight. Next week, I believe we will have Peter Brown.
That's the plan so far.
That's the plan so far. So look forward to that. He is going to be updating us on AI, what's going on with that. And we'll be discussing some little critters that's always invading our spaces out there in the pens. Rats.
Yeah. This is going to be a good one because a lot of my members are asking me, what do I do about mice and rats? And Peter knows a lot about that. I've talked to him before. I mean, he knows a lot about it. Let's put it that way. And so he's going to come on, and we're going to talk about the ins and outs of rats and mice and what to do about it. He sent me all kinds of information, so it should be a good show. And then he wants to update us on what's going on with AI and how to protect your birds and all that. So that should be good.
Some really good information.
Yeah.
Something we all need to be listening up for is what's going on with AI to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate the comments and the questions, and we'll see my members in the back end.
Yes, everybody have a great weekend. Make sure that you give us a good thumbs up if you liked our show tonight. That helps with the algorithms, if I even say that word correctly, and gets our word out there to the masses. We'd love to see that. Thank you so much, and have a great night, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.